All right, today we're talking about how to sound like a better you. My guest today is Justin Blackman. He's an expert in how to make your brand voice unique, and I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I am the host of this show. You know, if you've listened before, every week we have smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies. If you check out the archives, we've got Netflix, Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, Activation Blizzard. Lots of great episodes for you to check out. And this episode is brought to you by our company, Rise 25, where we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that by helping you to run your podcast. We are the easy button for any company to launch and run a podcast. So if you want to learn more, you can go to rise25.com and learn all about what we do. All right, my guest here today is Justin Blackman. First, a shout out to Nick Aracco from CFO Alliance, who introduced us, a great friend of Rise 25. And Justin is a messaging strategist, and he's been helping businesses to craft standout messaging that resonates with their audience for many years now. He helps brands to ditch generic, forgettable copy and replace it with much more bold and personality-driven messaging. And that you go to his LinkedIn page, you go to his website, you'll see that he really walks the walk too. And so I'm really looking forward to talking to him today about that. But Justin, let's start with, I'd like to get to know what people are like a little bit when they were a kid. You said you were a bit quiet, a little lacking in self-confidence at a young age, but also that gave you an ability to observe and to discover what's going on behind the scenes and kind of understand better how others can express themselves. So let's talk a little bit about what young Justin was like.
He was kind of a shy, little, quiet, dumpy kid, kind of guy that swam with his t-shirt on in the pool.
Nothing wrong with that, says the pale guy over here who burns easily.
Yours was for protection. Mine was from protection from the outside, not from the sun, but from other people's suns.
I got it.
Yeah. No, I just did not have a lot of confidence growing up, and kind of quiet. I was always kind of funny, but I wouldn't say jokes out loud. I would whisper them to my friends who were the class clowns, and then the class clowns would say them out loud and they get the laugh. So I was sort of quietly funny. And I was a really good observer at things. And yeah, it just sort of became a pattern through my life that I didn't quite fit in with the loud kids, but they liked having me around because I kind of made them funnier sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes you figure out that someone has a great sense of humor and, you just enjoy it for yourself, like they'll say something under their breath that just cracks up all their friends.
Yeah. I was friends with the rowdy kids who got in trouble, but I never got in trouble either. It's like people didn't believe me that I would ever do anything bad. And I mostly didn't. I was a rule follower for sure.
So did it take a while for you to find your footing, as you work your way into the career world? Because it's not like you can go to employers and be like, I'm a good observer. You want to hire me? Or did it take a while to kind of figure out how do I make that my superpower? How do I leverage that into a career or profession?
Yeah, even in college, I went to school for sports management and I focused on marketing, but I was in there with a bunch of athletes and I played hockey and I was an athlete, but I didn't live and breathe sports. All these guys were like, "Did you see the game last night?" And they're rattling off stats back and forth. And I'm like, I didn't do any of that. I was at home reading a marketing book. And, I played sports, but I didn't necessarily follow sports except for the New York Rangers, still my team. Always have been. And I was diehard and passionate about them, but I wasn't passionate about sports in general.
You live in Atlanta now, but you grew up in the Northeast where
I grew up in New Jersey.
More hockey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot more up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't quite fit in with some of those kids, but I really got good at the business around what they were doing and what they were passionate about. And I like being around passionate people, but I was passionate about different things.
You actually work. So you mentioned the Rangers are your team?
Yeah.
And you worked for them for a little while.
I did game night operations for a little bit.
But what was that like working for your team?
It was pretty awesome. It was cool. It was whenever they had promotions, I was just sort of standing behind a table and things like that. It was sort of my first entrance into professional field marketing. I had done some stuff with in college, handing out t-shirts for beer companies and
Yeah.
keychains and things like that. And that's sort of what I continued to do. That's what I did with the Rangers, and then eventually kind of worked my way up with different brands, helping them manage those programs.
I guess even the most amazing job could eventually become mundane, which actually is kind of my story. I mean, I worked at the White House, and I tell people that sometimes it was mundane because I was just sitting away, pounding away, writing. But like, I went to a Warriors game with my son on Friday night, and there were people doing those promotions. They were running out, like doing the T-shirt cannon and stuff like that. And I even remarked to him at one point. I was like, one of those people doesn't look like they're having fun. How can you not have fun? Like that looks absolutely amazing. But I guess if you did it night after night, eventually you'd be like, oh, this is boring.
It gets old, and there are sometimes it's like this is when I knew I had to leave sports. I was back when I worked in sports marketing. We had a suite at Madison Square Garden, and I remember being like, "Oh, I got to go to the suite again tonight. I just want to go home." And I'm
Yeah.
like in a luxury suite, watching my
Yeah.
favorite team and
Doesn't
doing what
get,
I
yeah.
love, what I went to school for, and I
Right.
didn't want to do it. And I was like, I might be done with this part.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think you don't want it to be so frequent that it loses its pizzazz, I guess.
Yeah.
You eventually find your way to working for two iconic brands, Red Bull, and then after that, 5 Hour Energy. Both don't seem like the home for like a quiet, introverted kind of
Yeah.
kid. What was it like working at Red Bull?
Red Bull, it was there in the heyday when they were doing everything wild and just,
Yeah.
I mean, they still are, but
But
it
back
was
then, it was
great.
just so breakthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were everywhere. Just the media was everything. It was the time of my life, best job I ever had.
Well,
And it was phenomenal management. And that's the thing that people don't realize. People say that Red Bull sells itself. No, it doesn't.
mm,
There's a team of really smart people selling it. And
mm-hmm.
then there's everyone from the distribution chain, which I actually worked in that for a little bit too, but the marketing. So it was great. I used to run one of the sampling teams in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. So I covered a lot of the Southeast area, and it was great. And I trained a team that would run all the sampling programs, mostly focusing on college campuses, work sites, even white collar offices, a lot of military bases, and I had to train those teams. But you're right in the fact that I didn't quite fit in. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the loud adventure, adrenaline seeker type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was more quiet and calculated. And one of the things that I did with the sampling programs, we had to keep track of all the interactions and document everything. I actually created spreadsheets that wound up being used by the teams to help calculate all that. And when I saw some of the conversations happening, I could tell when something went well and something didn't, but I was like, what just happened there?
Mm.
And I would analyze it and playing back, and I got really good at pattern recognition. I guess I always have been good at pattern recognition. And I was able to figure out why certain things worked. And again, that I wasn't the guy, like you said, the guy firing the t-shirt cannon, having fun. I wasn't that guy. I was the one looking in the crowd to see how the crowds reacted with where it landed. And it
Yeah.
was more analytical. And with Red Bull, with the conversations, I wound up being able to track what worked well and what had the better resonance, and tried a few things and created a couple of processes that wound up becoming part of a national training program.
Mm.
So things like that. I didn't quite fit in, but my quiet analytical style had a place. It just wasn't necessarily out in the front lines.
Yeah. It's interesting because both of those companies, Red Bull and 5 Hour Energy, basically kind of pioneered and invented a whole brand. You know, Red Bull was really kind of a different kind of consumer drink product. And 5 Hour Energy certainly was very much a different product than what people were used to. A very small, little vial size thing that you drink quickly that is sold in convenience stores and on countertops and things like that. So there's a lot of similarities between the two and for you professionally.
Yeah, there absolutely was as far as the product fit. I mean, 5 Hour is essentially like a concentrated version of Red Bull. It's like Red
Yeah.
Bull without the water, but it is a completely different positioning. And whereas Red Bull is really a brand that's built on marketing, 5 Hour is is a product.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have a big wild brand. It doesn't want to be a big wild brand. They had opportunities and they still a $1 billion company. They sold a ton, but it was all about the efficacy of the product.
Mm.
Whereas Red Bull had also a product that worked very well, still works well. I still drink it. And they also had the marketing to back it up.
Hmm.
5 Hour was not flashy. It was just something that worked. It was too, from a branding perspective, they're completely opposite.
Yeah,
From a
very
product
different. Yeah.
perspective,
Oh.
they're pretty much the same ingredients.
Hmm. Hmm. Shows the difference of what you choices that you make as far as marketing is concerned.
Yeah, for sure. The way that it was presented, the way that the teams were trained, I would say the quote unquote professionalism of the
Hmm.
teams, whereas Red Bull was kind of designed to be a little bit edgy, but also needed to fit into a work environment as well. It wasn't all, we're not just going off people, going after people jumping off a building. You're also going for, the person coming back to their corporate job after lunch who's
Hmm.
trying to fight off the post-lunch food coma.
Right, right. It's interesting because had, after these stints, Red Bull and 5 Hour Energy, then natural thing for someone to go to is then the corporate hotel world.
Sure.
So you go work for IHG, one of the biggest hotel groups out there. What was that adjustment like for you to switch from very different types of brands to something a little bit more corporate, a little bit more reserved?
Yeah, I wish I could say that it was really hard and I didn't fit in and I was used to being out in the field and that's where I was born and bred to be and I need to be outdoors. No, it's actually really easy. I fit in more to the corporate environment seamlessly than I care to admit. It was a great company, still is a great company, and what was great about that is that with with after 5 Hour Energy, I had gone to writing scripts for the sampling team and teaching people how to communicate. When I went to IHG, it was just me doing the things that I had taught people how to speak. And I I just went from creating scripts to say to writing emails to read and landing pages to read. And it actually gave me a bigger knowledge because I started understanding what copywriting was in between
Hmm.
those transition years.
Hmm.
And it just went from written to I'm sorry, from spoken to written
Hmm.
content and understanding how persuasion techniques work and the psychology behind writing and direct sales and direct
Hmm.
response and understanding how to create emotion and a response through word. And I got really good at
Mm,
that.
mm,
And it was like, okay, this is where I belong.
mhm,
Everything I've been doing, all the pattern recognition, all the analysis, all the the processes that I had been discovering, watching all the hundreds of thousands of communications, understanding why some of them worked. Copywriting gave a name to it. These were all frameworks that existed. I'm not claiming to have discovered any of these things,
mhm.
but I sort of figured some of this stuff out for myself, only to realize that the science already existed. And then I
Yep.
could lean into that and I just became smarter.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of classic books. I've got Breakthrough Advertising behind me here, which is one. Yeah, you got a
Got it right
copy
over
over
there.
there. Yeah, one of the classics. And I've got a few others over here as well. But these books were written 75, 100 years ago, and
Yeah.
a lot of these principles have not changed one bit.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
the medium has changed.
It's the old stuff still works. It
Yeah,
just does.
yeah,
Human
yeah.
behavior has not changed.
Yeah. So you are at IHG for a few years, and then you go out and start your own. I guess you'd call it a consultancy. What inspired that?
So I had been kind of starting a side hustle on the side and just taking a couple of weekend projects, writing some websites and emails for people. And I had a project I called the Headline Project, where I wanted to get really good at understanding messaging and voice. And I used to write 100 headlines every single day for 100 days.
Hmm.
And it resulted in a swipe file of 10,211 headlines. It's up on my site if anyone wants it.
Hmm.
And it that generated some publicity.
Hmm.
And I had an agency come to me and says, "Hey, I need someone that can write in different styles. Do you want to give it a shot?" And
Hmm.
I said, "Sure, let's see what happens." And they gave me a test project and I wrote it in 2, 3 days and I gave it back to them. And they said, "We've been doing this for 6 years. You're the first person that ever nailed the test project on the first try."
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'm good at this.
Hmm.
And they offered me enough recurring work that I could bring them on as a retainer client. So I left IHG, started my own business, and really never looked back.
Yeah. And you have an interesting mix because you've worked with some, I'd call them like online marketing thought leaders like Amy Porterfield, Stu McLaren, and Todd Herman. But
Yeah.
then you also have, in your background, a lot of experience with more corporate companies.
Yeah. It's that. So the reason why I was able to nail that test project is because I didn't try to change what they were doing. They had a
Hmm.
very unique style, a very interesting style. The cadence was ultra short, ultra choppy. Their tone was a little snarky, a little aggressive. And when I read this, I was like, this shouldn't work. Like, I don't like anything about this, but they're doing it for a reason. Let's stick with it and let's write it in their style. And that's what I was able to do. And that's why I nailed it. I didn't try to change them. I didn't say, oh, this is weird. Let's make this more normal.
Hmm.
The reason why I'm able to write with corporate clients and professional clients, male, female, empathy, sympathy, compassion, whatever tones they have, I'm not trying to change it. I'm really good at analyzing what's there and mirroring it. That's
Hmm.
kind of what became the secret weapon for me. That was the sauce, is understanding and being able to mirror it. A lot of people, they just sort of, they'll say like, how do you get their voice? And they're like, well, I just listen to everything that they say, and I read everything that they write, and I just sort of do it intuitively. That's great, but intuition doesn't scale.
Hmm.
I have an actual process where I do it, and I measure their vocabulary, their tone, their cadence. I literally have tools. I built a website that will analyze your copy and give you mathematical data. I get ultra nerdy on this thing. It's the thing that goes all the way back to the childhood with
Hmm.
being quiet but understanding the process and the thinking patterns behind people. Because I have a process, it allows me to work with really any type of client. I
Hmm.
don't niche by industry. I niche by voice. Because my thing is, I can tell you how you write, and then I can mirror it. It's a process I call brand ventriloquism, where I can throw my voice into any style, not through intuition, but because of literal math and patterns.
What's interesting to me is that you say that after you have helped companies with figuring out what their voice is, that then they can take that and then they can use it with either their writers or their AI, which is interesting because there's a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people, and I identify as a writer. It's been my profession for many years. Don't do it as nearly as much as I used to, but I've seen a lot of people that are really afraid of the changes that are happening with AI,
Yeah.
even though I will say that some of the writing that is done by AIs is tremendous. It's, much better than the vast majority of human writing, I think, today. What are your thoughts on that? And as AI, came around over the last 3 years or so, did you fear it or did you come around to it?
So I've had, it's not fear, but I had a little bit of dislike at the
Hmm.
beginning. And at the beginning, it was easy to dismiss it because the fact is, it was a terrible writer. ChatGPT was awful.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, look how good it is." I was like, "It's good if you don't know what you're doing, but if you do, this is crap." And I didn't like it, and it was easy for me to say I'm better than AI. These days, I actually use Claude more than I use Chat, and
Hmm. Me
Chat
too.
Claude
Yeah.
could be a damn
Yeah.
good writer
Yeah.
with the right context, with the right inputs, with the right just everything.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good writer.
Hmm.
And I it would be foolish of me to be scared of it or to think of it as an enemy rather than a tool to help people that can't write well or that want to be able to scale things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I use it as a thinking partner. I don't write with it very much. I have written with it, and
Hmm.
sometimes it says stuff that I was like, wow, this is actually better than what I wrote.
Or it can rewrite things too. You can take something you've written, put it in, and it'll punch it up in different ways that are sometimes a little bit unexpected. Or,
Yeah,
sometimes like transition sentences can be really hard. I suck at conclusions. Sometimes
yeah,
it comes up with things like that. It's like, oh, great, thank you. I'll
yeah,
take that. Yeah.
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 I like it at this point.
Yeah.
And it's weird for me to say that 2 years ago, I never would have said that. But and right now, what is it, 2.5, 3 years old? It's a toddler right now. It's
Yeah.
just learning how to walk.
Right.
If I position this as the enemy, a couple of years, I'm gone.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand about some people. I feel like some people are just really putting their head in the sand right now, and they're denigrating. Mostly the ones who denigrate it are ones who haven't spent any time trying it out. You
Yeah.
know, they say that it can't do this, they say they can't do that. I'm like, have you tried it recently? Because maybe 3 years ago it couldn't do that, but it can now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, there's such a demand for me. I have some workshops where I help people get AI to sound more like them. And it's because I'm not just saying like make it sound more human or just
Right.
make it friendlier, make it warmer. I'm not doing that. I'm giving it mathematical processes in the way that I help people define and document their style and their perspectives and things like that. That's how I'm able to get good content that sounds like you. And I have conversations like long, crazy long threads with Claude and also some with ChatGPT and some custom GPTs where I just go back and forth thinking with it.
Hmm.
And I don't just take what it says at face value. I tend to write some stuff with it of like, what about this? One of my favorite things is to say, play devil's advocate, tell me why I'm wrong. And if
Hmm.
it can't, then I know I'm right. Or
If
if I
it
don't
can't
agree
play
with
the
what it says.
And when you do this, what does that process look like? Is it just talking? Are you talking about a random topic, and then at the end say, "Okay, sum up what you've learned about my voice," or how do you do that? And also, do you do
So
it orally or do you do it in writing?
I do it by writing. I think
Okay.
through writing. And actually, most of my best sales letters, I actually still write by hand, not
Mm,
even keyboard, but pen and paper. Like I have a
mm,
fountain pen and
wow.
paper that slows me down.
Wow.
I have a sales page up right now that people are like, this feels like a journal entry. And I was like, it
Mm,
is. I literally wrote this as
mm,
a journal
mm,
and then I
mm.
turned it into a sales page.
Huh.
Those are still my most connected best pieces. AI doesn't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
My best pieces come from me. But if it's just a quick email and I'm struggling with something, AI is great for that.
Mm,
But as far as what I'm giving it, I have style guides that I've created for myself. I have ones that I've created for other people. And it used to be that I needed to give it everything. These days, once you give it a specific angle, and I don't just mean like, approach it from, this perspective. When it understands you, you can document some of your best assets and your traits and your patterns and things like this, and as well as patterns in your writing, like literally the mathematical components of your writing, that's when AI starts to sound more like you.
mm,
We all have, there are, I have a process and there are 9 different voice types. And they could be ranging from voices of authority to like you're leaning on your expertise, voices of outlook with your viewpoints on life, or voices of accessibility. Are you like on level with your readers, above them, below them? What are you trying to convey? Those all have different measurements to them. Changes in the vocabulary, the tone, the cadence to make you sound more accessible versus more authoritative and more commanding. We can literally change the patterns in your writing to make you sound one way or the other. AI is doing that sort of just by design. I can give it the sort of the codes and the processes and the calculations to help it get there faster and more on your brand, on your level.
mm. You have a new program. Tell us about the new program that you are just launching now.
I do. This one's called Different on Purpose, and it's a whole lot of fun. I ran it once last year. Doors are actually opening up again right now. They're opening today, and that is really about helping you find your edge. It's for people that had a quite a bit of success and were doing well and just felt like everything was great, and then just had the rug pulled out from under them. And the last few years, it just felt like the world has stopped devaluing their craft or whatever they do, and it feels like they feel a little alone. And the people that just it's like what I was doing is working, and all of a sudden it just stopped, and I don't know why, or I know why, but I don't know what to do about it.
Mhm.
Different on Purpose is an 8-week workshop where we actually go really deep into what you truly do differently that can't be copied. And it's not just about AI, it's not just about your competitors, it's about understanding what you do and being able to reposition it as something that is forever valuable or something that people need right now, because people are not obsolete. We're getting blended in, and there's, big monster that's kind of threatening a lot of us, but we're not obsolete. And I truly believe that with the right messaging and the right positioning, there's enough people for everyone that we can still succeed.
I love that message of hope and positivity, Justin. This has been great. Where can people go to learn more about you, connect with you, and download those 10,000 headlines?
So the easiest place is justinblackman.com. You can hop on my email list. Right now I've got 93 fun ways to sign off your emails. And it's just a way of adding a little bit of pop and personality to everything that you send. It just sort of showcases a little bit more of you, which, as we all know, is very important right now.
Yeah. All right, Justin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.